Back again for 2023. It's the Ford Maverick, and this one is the XLT, and it's the 2.5 liter hybrid, which I still haven't had a chance to see it in person, so it's kind of neat seeing this thing. Now, a few small things about the one in behind me. I did mention it's the XLT, but it has the optional XLT Luxury Package. There are a few small differences from 22 versus 23, few new color choices. The Lariat's only available front-wheel drive for the hybrid down in the States now. There's a few small things on the interior, and other than that, it's relatively unchanged. Looking at the wheels inside the Maverick, there are two choices available. So it's either going to be 17 or 18 inch. XLT generally is going to have 17 unless you go for one of the added black appearance packages. Lariat's going to be 18 inch on top of that. But series of different style wheel choices that are available. Tons of different things available aftermarket, whether you're looking at the wheel or the rubber. So if you want to take this thing off-road, you've got that flexibility. No, this one is the hybrid version of the vehicle, which means we are looking strictly at front-wheel drive in Canada. And then as we get into the regular gas version of the vehicle, that's when we get into that all-wheel drive variety instead. So available drivetrain is going to depend on whether you're in Canada versus the States, if you're in the XL, XLT, or Lariat. So few things to take into account when we look at it. Moving towards the front end, the Maverick, doesn't matter if we're in the XL, XLT, or Lariat, we're going to have LED headlamps there, and something that's continued through the 22 to the 23, we don't have fog lamp availability inside of this thing whatsoever. And that's one thing you're going to notice, like even looking at the differences between the Maverick, the Ranger, the F-150, etc., the Maverick essentially is like a stripped down bare bones truck instead. So we're not going to get technology like forward sensing systems. You're not going to get a front facing camera, things like that in any trim level of the vehicle. One thing that would be kind of neat, because this thing is based off of the same platform as the Bronco Sport and the Escape, is if we could get some of that tech. People would pay for it. Like to get a front facing camera like what we've got in the Bronco Sport, I think would be kind of neat, but it is what it is. We do have a few different style grills that are available inside of this thing. Basic bumper there on top of that. Nice and simple. I want to say thank you so much. It's crazy that I hit 20,000 subscribers, so glad that you guys are finding value from the videos that I'm putting out. If you have any ideas for any other videos that you'd like to see, definitely feel free to reach out and let me know. And if you're looking at picking up either a Maverick, Mustang, or any other Ford Lincoln vehicle, you want to connect with Formula Ford in Pickering, they'll be able to help you out putting through a factory order. Getting underneath the hood of the Maverick, really straightforward. Just to the left-hand side of the pedals, we've got a release. We're just going to pull that twice. But this thing, on just a regular prop bar, but super straightforward to pick that thing up. Now, we've got this. And I said I'm excited because it's the first time I've actually seen the hybrid engine for the Maverick in person. But very similar to what we're going to find inside of the Escape. We've got a 2.5 liter Atkinson hybrid. Combined numbers, we're looking at 191 horsepower and 155 pound-feet of torque. So not the most powerful option, but if we were to bump it up to the 2 liter turbocharged instead, it's the exact same capability we're going to find inside of the Bronco Sport. So that 2 liter has 250 horsepower and 277 pound-feet of torque. Like a teeny little bit of a difference. And we can tell that it's a hybrid because it's got all the high voltage orange wiring throughout. If you're inclined to do some things yourself, easily top up fluid, check and change your oil. You definitely want to make sure that you're at least doing regular oil changes inside of your vehicle and then regularly maintaining it on top of that. Minimum just like regularly change your oil, but that scheduled maintenance is definitely there for a reason. So you are looking at a small break-in period for this vehicle. Looking at the warranty inside the Maverick, we are looking at a basic, so 3-year, 60,000 kilometer, and then a 5-year, 100,000 for the powertrain. And then we've got different elements when we look at the hybrid components and things like that. But warranty is all over the place. And I mean, obviously, if you have the 2 liter, the hybrid components just won't be covered off because you don't need it. But at a very minimum, just make sure you're taking your vehicle in for regularly scheduled maintenance. Minimum doing regular oil changes at the same time, just to make sure you're getting the best possible life out of your ride. Filling up fuel inside of the Maverick is also very straightforward. So it's just along our driver's side. When we're in the hybrid, this is actually a locked cover, and that's just got to do with depressurization. When you're in the regular gas version, this is unlocked. But getting inside for the hybrid, little button press there, fuel doors open. So nice and simple, capless system, and doesn't matter if we're looking at the 2.5 liter hybrid or the 2 liter turbo, regular 87 fuel is all we need to use inside of this thing. But the horsepower and torque specs that we were looking at under the hood are all achieved using a premium fuel. So do you need to use a premium fuel? Not technically, but if you want the best possible performance, ideally you want to use like an 89. 91 is your best bet though, just not necessary. For comparison's sake, so that you can see how big the Maverick is, I'm 6 feet tall. I've got a ton of head clearance space over this thing. So the Maverick is not a tall truck by any stretch. It's actually, you can see it along the side there, that hot pepper red Bronco Sport. It's pretty much the same size as that. So not tall, and it's not difficult to get in and out of the first or second row. Super straightforward. But there is some interesting technology available inside of this. We do have the 5-digit number pad available as an option right from the factory. You can get it installed aftermarket. So one of the benefits there is that you could lock the doors by pushing the bottom 2 buttons. But if you want to get inside without your key fob on you, you can also enter in a 5-digit factory number in order to make it happen. Now on top of that, side view mirrors, slightly different too. So this one just has regular glass on it. And then we've got like a little convex mirror along the top in order to adjust that out. So slightly separate glass. It is power for the main part, and then it's a manual adjust for that convex instead. Towards the back end of the Maverick, a few things are standard. We've got our Ford Blue Oval. There's a backup camera there. We've got our Maverick badge. And then because this is the hybrid, we've got a fancy little hybrid badge along the bottom left-hand side. This specific one I mentioned has the XLT Luxury Package, which means that we do have our 4-pin provisions there. We've got our regular hitch receiver on top of that. When we look at towing inside the Maverick, we're either going to get 2,000 or 4,000 pound towing capacity. You're maxing it at 2,000 pounds inside of the hybrid, and you're going, in order to get that 4,000 pound capacity, you need to have the 2 liter turbocharged engine. So it still is respectable, like 4,000 pounds towing inside of this thing. And that's even the same way, like if you're looking for the 4 7-pin provisions on top of that, you do need to have that 4K tow package instead. One other thing to consider is going to be payload inside of this. So when we look at the Maverick, we're maxing out at 1,500 pound payload capacity, but that also depends on how the rest of the vehicle is built out. The yellow payload sticker on this one, I believe we're maxing out at around 1,400 and change, like 1,474, I think is the exact number. So everything you have in the vehicle, the weight of the hitch, anything that you've got in the bed of the truck, passengers, things like that, is all going to subtract from your maximum allowable payload. So it's something to consider. Now, getting inside of the bed of the Maverick is very straightforward. Now, a few things about this thing. Inside of the Maverick, we're strictly looking at a 4.5 foot bed. Like we don't, like box size, we don't have the option for anything that's going to be longer. You could technically do a little extender if you wanted to get that extra space when you have the tailgate down. But if you're looking for something bigger, the Ranger is going to be a 5 or a 6 foot box, and then you've got the F-150 for up to an 8 foot box. So if this isn't enough space, you don't have a choice but to look at the Ranger instead. Now, this one has the plastic liner that's available right from the factory. You do have the option to go spray-in route instead. I personally recommend the spray-in, but I go through Line-X instead. That's what I normally recommend. It's about twice as thick as the factory liner, and it has a lifetime warranty. But that one's a matter of preference. And whether you get the drop-in plastic or spray-in, you know it's from Ford, because we've got a Ford logo right along the very back of the bed there as well. But some basics back here. You're going to have a few different features depending on if you're in the XLT, the Lariat, and then what packages you've added on. Because this one has the option for bed lighting. So we've got lighting down here, we've got bed lighting along the top, and then we've also got a 400 watt inverter back here, which is really useful if you want to be plugging some things in. I know we've got that hybrid component of it, but it is cool to know that we've got that available as an option. One other cool thing along the right side, we've also got a little cubby storage on top of that. Now it does have a 20 pound max capacity, but if you want to build the bed out and do some things, you've got that flexibility. And that's for along the side, and then even other components of the bed. Like if you wanted to drop in 2x4s and kind of build this thing out a little bit more, you would have that flexibility. And that's why I would recommend looking at the drop-in or the spray and bed liner instead, because when we get the drop-in, it covers up some really useful components. But you've got the option for tonneau covers like soft rolling, hard rolling, tri-fold, etc. You can cap this thing out as well. It's going to be a matter of what do you need out of your vehicle. Now, one other thing is spare tire. So inside of the Maverick, you do have the option for a spare tire. Because the packages we've added on, we've got a full-size spare that's located just underneath the vehicle. So really useful. And then our jack stand is just in behind the second row seats.
Oh yeah. All right. So this is the 2023 Ford Maverick, and this is the XLT trim level. I gotta say, I kind of like the seats. Just the basic look of them is so cool, and we've got this nice orange highlight, this beautiful orange stitching. One thing about the stitching, it follows all the way throughout the seats in the first and the second row, but it doesn't follow throughout the steering wheel. So we do have a vinyl wrap steering wheel as an option inside of this thing, but it's got this blacked out stitching instead, which, it still looks pretty neat. But we've got some really cool orange highlights that go all the way throughout, on the door handle, even through the vents. And then we've got a few different parts, like storage trays down in the center stack, which have an orange look to them as well. It's pretty cool looking. But let's go through some basics of what you're going to find inside of this ride. So along the driver's side door, we've got an unlock lock button, but we've got all of our basic controls, like our side view mirror control, and then we can control our front and our rear windows on top of that. Along the door, we've got a bottle storage area, and then this thing does technically have the option for an upgraded speaker system, and it's kind of funny because you can see where the little badge should be along the door, but this is just the basic speaker system instead. Oh, when we get to the audio test, you'll be able to hear it, but it still is really nice at the same time. And even all these small highlights. We've got this weave texture on top, which follows through the center stack there too, which is kind of nice. I like it. Now, just by our left knee, we've got a series of buttons. So we've got one in order to turn the bed lining on for the vehicle. There's one for a release for the gas tank too. Now, that's because this is the hybrid version of the vehicle. But if we were just in the regular 2.5 liter, we just wouldn't have that available as an option. We've got a little selector switch to figure out what's going on with our running lamps. And I always just recommend to leave it in the auto setting. It's going to automatically turn the lights on or off as necessary, just depending on how bright it is outside. And then there's another one, a plus minus button, in order to be able to figure out what's going on with the brightness of the little cluster screen and that sync media screen. The steering wheel inside the Maverick is going to be telescopic, just by our left knee, in and out, up and down, and it's manual telescoping. So we don't have the option for a power steering wheel inside of this thing whatsoever. But one interesting change from 22 to the 23 is that the XL, so the base trim level of the Maverick, now will also have cruise control available standard. So that's something that wasn't available in the 2022 model on launch. So it's kind of cool it's available here. But we've got our left turn stick, which is exactly that. Right turn stick is going to be for our front windshield wipers. And then we've also got a selector switch for how fast or slow it's going. As I mentioned, cruise control is available there as an option. We've got volume rockers on the left side. We've got a series of other buttons along the right in order to navigate through our little cluster screen. But if you're looking for a walkthrough on how to use the steering wheel buttons, the cluster screen, or use the media screen inside of this thing, check down in the description of the video. I put together some comprehensive walkthroughs explaining how everything works. But it's so simple. We've got a voice command prompt so we can change songs, radio stations. New to the 2023, we do have the Sync 3 with factory navigation inside of the Lariat trim. So we could technically use that in order to navigate to different destinations too. We've got this nice highlight, this glossy highlight along the bottom part of the steering wheel, which is kind of cool. I like it. It's nice. Now, seat comfort is another thing. So I mentioned, so this is the XLT. I like the navy, like the Pier type of interior here. This is really neat looking. Like this multiple tone color. It's funky looking, but it's kind of neat all at the same time. Nice. Seat surprisingly comfortable. Headrest is just a two-way, so an up and down. And then for like most part, I shouldn't say for the most part, the XL and the XLT, we're going to have just regular manual seats, but we do have the option for power seats, because this one has one of the added luxury packages. So you do have the option for power seats inside of this, and that's forwards, backwards, up and down. Can adjust our backrest, and then we've got two-way lumbar support that are power as well. Really useful. But so seat comfortability is great with the seat all the way down as far as it's going to go. I've got a boatload of headspace here, like what, 6 inches ish of headspace, and I'm 6 feet tall. So, I mean, if you're taller than that, 6'4", 6'5", you'll probably be able to comfortably sit inside of this thing. But seat comfortability is actually pretty good. It's good. It's good. All right. Now shooting across, I'm going to simple startup, and it started up, and this thing is in electric only mode right now because we're in the hybrid, which is amazing. We don't have a ton of electric miles inside of this thing. It's really more for if you're looking for improved fuel economy, and like it's a night and day fuel economy over the 2-liter turbocharged engine. But as we shift over, we've got 2 different screen choices that are available inside of this thing. So inside of the XLT, it's going to be the same look, layout, and functionality. And then we've got the option for the Sync 3 media screen with factory navigation inside of the Maverick Lariat. So Lariat version of the vehicle will have that available as an option instead. It's going to be a matter of preference. Like, factory navigation is super useful in Sync 3 because it's a free service essentially. You just pay for access to the actual screen itself. But then we still do have the flexibility of connecting through either Android or iPhone devices. So we'd be able to use things like Google Maps, Apple Maps, or Waze right through the middle screen of either of them. So whether we're in just this base screen or the beefier Sync 3 screen, we're connected through Android Auto, Apple CarPlay. Yeah, strictly a wired connection though. So we don't have wireless flexibility, unfortunately. That's next gen. The Escape just finished getting an upgrade for the 2023 model year. It's got this like beautiful multimedia screen. It's Sync 4, which is when we get the Android Auto, Apple CarPlay that are wireless. So these things are built on the same platform. So the Bronco Sport, the Maverick, and the Escape, which means that the Bronco Sport and the Maverick should be getting an upgrade. They're probably going to wait 2 years. So 25, 26 is probably when we'll see that, or at least wired. It's useful. I personally prefer to use CarPlay anyways as I go, but it's going to be a matter of what do you like. But this is nice. So this is the base audio system inside of this. This isn't the upgraded one. And like the sound inside of this thing is so good. I love the song. I love the band, but the sound inside of this, like even the bass sound, it's so good. It's ridiculously good. And like, obviously this is a little bit of a smaller cabin, but it's not going to be as deep of a bass as we look at when we get into the upgraded system. This is still pretty good though. But the basic sync system, like it's so straightforward and it's super useful. Like we've got a bunch of different options available. We've got audio, so AM, FM. If we were hooked up over Bluetooth using our phones, we'd be able to stream audio off of our phone if we wanted to go that route. You could make basic phone calls and things like that. It's just that when we get into Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, that's when we get into the flexibility of using maps that are running right through our phone, but through the media screen instead. Really useful if you're going on road trips and things like that. But AM, FM, Sirius XM, we can add in phones. We've got some different apps that are available. Series of different things built into the screen, so different safety settings and things like that. But like I said, you want to have a walkthrough on this one, you'll find that down in the description of the video. Just under the screen, we've got our volume rocker, tuning rocker. There are a series of other buttons. So one for blinkers. We've got another one to pull up some audio settings and a number of other things down there as well. We are going to be single zone climate control inside of this thing. So single zone, super straightforward to adjust. And one cool thing, when we adjust the temperature and the fan speed, it actually shows up right through that media screen to what level we're at. Useful, kind of cool. We've got a series of other buttons. Ooh, is that heated side view mirrors? How did I not even notice that before? We've got a button for heated side view mirrors inside of this thing. There is the option for heated first row seats and a heated steering wheel on top of that. So that's ultimately going to depend on which trim level of the vehicle that you're in. But I mean, having that heated steering wheel, heated seat, super useful for wintertime. I like it. And then one really cool thing is that on the key fob, so we don't have remote start built into the fob in the XL, XLT, etc. But we do have Ford Pass. So we'd be able to hook up through our phone and we could remote start that way instead if we wanted to. So preconditioning cabins, all that fun stuff. Moving down the center stack, we've got 2 USB ports. So traditional USB, there's a USB-C, and then there's also a 12-volt power point down there too. From there, we also do have a few, oh, that's so neat. We've got this orange cutout, and I mean, you could use it for phone storage if you wanted to on the right side, and then just kind of dropping down here as well. Lots of storage there. Moving down, we've got our rotary dial shifter knob. So a lot of Ford vehicles have kind of shifted from like your traditional shifters into this rotary dial instead. But one nice thing here is that we do have our low gear. So park, reverse, neutral, drive, and a low gear. Shooting across, we've got a few cup holders. There's a parking brake, electronic, which is nice. We've also got this little button in order to change between different drive modes. So we've got 5 different modes available. We've got normal, tow, slippery, eco, and then my favorite, sport mode. So it's just going to hold on to the RPMs a little bit more to give you a little bit more of an aggressive feel to it. We've got a traction control button and then one for our auto hold setting. And the auto hold setting is the one where if we take our foot off the brake, it's going to hold us in place. Kind of useful. A few little storage trays there. We also do have a little armrest with nothing inside, just a decent amount of storage space. Not bad. Non-lockable inside of this thing too. But up overhead, we've actually got like surprisingly good visibility for the dash here. It's kind of nice. Pillars don't block things out too much, nothing out of the ordinary. Up overhead, we do have our manual dimming rearview mirror there. From there, we've got some controls for our cabin lights. Little sunglasses holder, typical Ford styling. And then the visor has a little business card holder on the inside and the outside there. We've got our visor with a vanity mirror built in, and this thing doesn't have lights available as an option there. But this thing extends out, blocking all of the sun that might be hitting our face, which is great. I like it. And it's actually, like, when it's extended there, it's pretty, like, it's not flimsy much. Like, it's got a little bit of give to it, but it's fairly sturdy. I was actually in a Transit Connect a couple weeks ago, and like when it's beefier, but when it was extended, it had like a little bit more give than I was probably comfortable with, but still though, nice. Now along the driver's side, we don't have any sort of an assist handle, but we do have one on the passenger side, and then we do have them for the second row seats too. But this is nice. We've got our glove box down there too, with a tiny little bit of storage space. Not bad. I like all the orange highlights though. You don't find any orange highlights up on the dash, but like I said, the vents all have the little orange highlight there along the door through the center stack. It's pretty neat. I like it. But what I'm going to do, I set the driver's seat up for somebody who's 6 feet tall. Let's hop back to that second row and see what's going on space-wise. Well, so second row of the Maverick. All right, here we go. So, initial impressions. I like all of the same highlights that we see back here. Like these seats, they look really, really neat. I kind of like it. But some things to consider. So the seat cushion, it's not too shabby. Like it's not obviously as comfortable as the first row seats, but it's all right. Wiggle test, it's there. And I've got a good amount of headspace back here too. Like I said, I'm 6 feet tall and I've got like 3.5, 4 inches of headspace up overhead there, which is great. But the seats here are locked into place. So unlike the Escape where we've got seats we can move forwards and backwards in the second row, these ones lock down. Not bad though. But like I said, all the highlights. We've got this like kind of diamond texture along the door, which is the same as we saw in the first row. We've got that same handle, window control, bottles, and things like that. But some basics. We do have behind the armrest here, so 2 USB power points, and then there's also a traditional 400 watt inverter here. So we've got a 400 watt power plug here. We've also got one in the bed of the truck. So which power plugs you get are going to depend on how you have the vehicle configured. Like, are you in the XLT, the Lariat? Do you have the luxury package in the XLT? So tons of things to consider there. But other things, we do have some cup holders right in the seat there, which is really useful. Both the driver and the passenger side. We've also got some assist handles. So assist handle driver passenger side in the second row and a little clothing hook on top of that. Overhead, we've got a little light there too. But it's really simple, like basic back here. We've got some speakers along the outside there. That's really about it. Like there's not much back here, which I mean, nice and simple, which is a good thing. We do have a little pocket along the passenger side seat, and then all of our anchors and tethers and things like that. So our anchor points are really easy to get to. The tethers, we actually need to crank this and pull it forward in order to be able to get access to the tethers. But the tethers are there throughout, so we've got the 3 that are available. And then we've also got our jack stand right in the back, right underneath the seat there. It's there, so if you ever need to change a tire, you've got that flexibility. But it was nice, and like I said, like tons of space here, which is great. And then we've also got a few different ways we can get under the seat here. So we've got some seat storage, which is super useful. But I'm gonna have to hop outside in order to show you this, but it's pretty cool at the same time. So along both the driver passenger side, we've got a little tab. And what we wanna do, so very straightforward, we've got a tab here. We're gonna pull, and when we do, we can actually lock this thing up into place, which, I mean, it's super useful to be locked up because if we have things underneath here, we just don't worry about this thing dropping down on us. So really useful. And then in order to close it, all we're gonna do, lift, drop, straightforward. But we've got a tiny little bit of storage on both the driver passenger side. Not a ton, but I mean, it's just enough in order to store a few things under the seat, which is pretty useful. It's nice. And that was a look at the 2023 Ford Maverick. Now this one was the XLT Hybrid, but still nice functionality all at the same time. If you have any questions though, you ran into any problems, drop down in the comment section below and let me know. More than willing to talk you through any issues that you might be having. If you're looking for a Maverick or any other Ford or Lincoln vehicle, you have to connect with Formula Ford. They'll be able to help you out. But if you found this video useful, give it a thumbs up, share it with somebody if you think they might find it helpful. And until I see you next time, take care. We've got a selector switch to jump between different drive modes as well, and that's all done through. We can see what's going on in our in our dash screen. Now this one has the spray and bed liner that's available. Oh, that's a plastic liner.